So they did it. They finally compromised with the U.S. debt ceiling. What's going on, guys? It's Ricky here with Technical Solutions. I hope that I earned your thumbs up, and make sure that you subscribe. I'll keep you guys up to date with everything it is that you need to know about the stock market. So yes, you are reading this correctly. I'm going to start sharing my screen so you guys can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. But according to this article and all the different articles that are being released right now, there is a compromise for the U.S. debt ceiling to be raised. Therefore, no default, right? But is the struggle or challenges over? Definitely not. And this is why we're going to read the article together. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you again. This is QQQ, which is the NASDAQ ETF. NASDAQ market is at 2023 all-time highs. It has gained over 37% from its lows of late 2022 to its current highs, again, 37.78%, meaning TQQQ has gained over 100% in the past 6 months of trading. One thing I want to share with you guys very quickly before we even jump into this, I do want to remind you guys, again, the GTR giveaway is coming to an end. You don't have to enter, but I know a lot of you guys have been waiting. There's 8 days left, 3 hours and 23 minutes. It's the fourth link in the description down below. This is the final week, and this is the biggest multiplier, meaning that 20x entries, meaning every $1 you spend equals 20 automatic entries. This is for the GTR or 50K cash giveaway. After 8 days, you're not going to be able to enter. Again, it's coming to an end. This is going to be the biggest multiplier. There's going to be nothing bigger or better than this. And again, if you enter right now, not only do you get entered for our GTR giveaway, but from May 26th to May 29th, you'll also get entered for our Infinity G35 giveaway, which is our Memorial Day giveaway just for this 4-day weekend, 3-day weekend, my apologies. But again, just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of this. ShopTechBuds.com or the fourth link in the description down below. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So White House and GOP strike debt limit deal to avert default. With the government on track to reach its borrowing limit within days, negotiators have sealed an agreement to raise the U.S. debt ceiling for 2 years while cutting and capping certain federal programs. Remember, again, I'm going to be breaking this down based off of my understanding. You guys can feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section. But remember, right, the reason that they weren't able to raise the U.S. debt ceiling is, well, the U.S. is running out of money, right? So therefore, they need Congress to pass the approval, pretty much, to raise the limit in which they can borrow, right? So they need to borrow more money because they're running out of money. Republicans viewed this as an edge to be able to negotiate, meaning that, okay, you want us to raise the U.S. debt ceiling? Meet these demands. So based off of, the compromise, it seems like not both parties got exactly what they wanted, but there was some compromise because originally Biden said that no negotiation, you need to raise the U.S. debt ceiling. And this is why so many people were concerned, because it seemed like both sides were really holding their ground until today, right? So still a little shy of June 1st, but finally putting things into place, right? Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So President Biden and Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Saturday reached an agreement in principle to lift the debt limit for 2 years while cutting and capping some government spending over the same period. A breakthrough after a marathon set of crisis talks that has brought the nation within days of its first default in history. This would have been insane if the U.S. would have default. One of the safest forms of investments, right, is investing in the treasury bond, right? And if this wasn't met and the U.S. couldn't pay its obligations, right, the U.S. would have to default. The stock market could crash 45% according to different articles I've read, as well as the treasury bond will see a huge drop. And again, really put and show a lot of weakness coming from the U.S. So what I've heard from both sides really needed to compromise. We needed to pass this debt limit increase. And finally, things are looking like they've at least met with a deal, right? So one thing that I want to share with you guys says Treasury is projected to exhaust its ability to be able to pay its obligations, right? Just like what we said, they're pretty much running out of money. It says, in particular, the House, which plans to consider it on Wednesday, Republicans hold a narrow majority in the chamber. Pretty much, when it comes down to needing to raise this debt limit, Republicans pretty much control the ability to raise it or to approve it or not, right, in comparison to how many Democrats there are. Now, the right-wing lawmakers who had demanded significantly larger budget cuts in exchange for lifting the borrowing limits which were already in revolt. So pretty much what Republicans wanted is, sure, we'll raise the U.S. debt limit, but you need to start spending less money. That's always been kind of more of the Republican side of things, where like, hey, like we're borrowing a lot of money, we're in this huge hole of debt. Let's stop spending money in these specific areas. So I don't think that all demands were met, but at least some compromise was met for the Republicans. But the compromise, which would effectively freeze federal spending that had been on track to grow, had the blessing of both the Democratic president and the Republican Speaker, McCarthy, raising hope that it could break through its fiscal stalemate, and has gripped Washington and nations for weeks, threatening an economic crisis. Not much there, right? Mr. Biden urged the House and the Senate to pass the agreement in a late-night statement issued by the White House, saying it would prevent a catastrophic default. Remember, if they didn't raise this debt limit, the U.S. wouldn't be able to pay its obligation, therefore it would have to default. And at that point, again, who knows what would have happened? This would have been the first time ever in history. It is important. It is an important step forward that reduces spending while protecting critical programs for working people and growing the economy for everyone, Mr. Biden said. And the agreement protects my and congressional Democrats' key priorities and legislative accomplishments. The agreement represents a compromise, which means that not everyone gets what they want. But according to what Biden originally said, no negotiation, I still see this as somewhat of a win for the Republicans. You guys let me know down in the comment section. The president and Mr. McCarthy spoke on the phone on Saturday evening to resolve final sticking points. So this is, I think, where most of the meat is. Like, what was this compromise? And what's the breakdown of this? So we don't know all the details, but this is going to be some. So in a nighttime news conference outside his Capitol office, and which lasted just 1 minute, Mr. McCarthy said that the deal contained historic reduction in spending, consequential reform that will lift people out of poverty and in the workforce, rein in government outreach, and this was the biggest one. This is when I read this, I knew that Republicans were aiming for this, and would add no new taxes, because remember, the way that the Democrats wanted to approach this is they wanted to raise taxes, and Republicans obviously have always been against that, right? So that was, I would say, something that probably, the Republicans did not want to compromise with, but that the Democrats, of course, wanted to work towards, but had to compromise, and okay, or at least for not the next 2 years, right? We're not going to be able to add any new taxes to tax, more. So he declined to answer questions or provide specifics, but he also planned to release legislative text on Sunday. So I guess we will know more tomorrow. We still have more work to do tonight to finish all the writing of it, he said. This was the part that was most concerning to me, right? I'm going to share this article with you guys. You guys can look it up. It's from New York Times, but literally every news outlet has their own version of it. So feel free to look it up, do your own due diligence. This was my biggest thing. The plan was structured with the aim of enticing votes from both parties, meaning that it had to be attractive enough because they have an agreement, right? But Congress still has to pass it. This is the part that I feel like we're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves. I mean, we're running out of time, so it's in their benefit to agree to it. But it's enticing enough that, remember, these are people that represent Republicans and then the Democrats. So Biden and McCarthy came to an agreement, but now people have to vote to pass if this legislation is actually going to be approved, right? And to actually raise the U.S. debt limit. But if there's a handful of Republicans or a handful of Democrats who are like, heck no, I'm not going to compromise or agree to this, and they agree to decline it, then are we back to square one, right? So the plan was structured with the aim of enticing votes from both parties. So that's what I just explained. Though it has drawn the ear not only of conservative Republicans, but also Democrats furious at being asked to vote for the cuts they oppose with the threat of default looming. So again, exactly what we just explained, the idea of, do they not compromise and agree to this and risk the idea of a potential default? Or do they just say, okay, this is somewhat of a compromise that I'm okay with, let's just pass it? I guess we'll know in the next few days, but again, they came to an agreement. They still need to vote on it for it to pass. So again, if you want to read a little bit more of this, all you literally need to Google search is US or White House and GOP strike deal, and it should be able to pop right up. And that's really just it. So what I'm going to be paying attention to tomorrow is updates on more of the specifics, and I'll make sure that I keep you guys up to date. So just make sure you subscribe and drop a thumbs up on this video. One thing I do want to remind you is turn on your post notifications, because if not, YouTube will not notify you when I post a new video. Second thing is when NASDAQ futures, if they do open up tomorrow, I know it's a 3-day weekend, but if they do open up tomorrow, I want to see how NASDAQ futures react. I want to see how Dow futures react. I want to see how S&P 500 futures react, because again, those open up around 4 to 5 p.m. Arizona time tomorrow, and that's before the market opens. So I'm very excited to see if the market reacts in a bullish way, or based off of the compromise, if possibly the market reacts in a negative way. And you guys can let me know down in the comment section, but I know that there's a handful of people that are going to say this is already factored in. The market should not be reacting. The market's been bullish for the past 2.5 weeks because of this, because they could strike a deal. Now they striked it. This should already be factored in. But who knows, right? We're not here to predict the future. We don't have a crystal ball. We're here to prepare for it. I'll keep you guys up to date. I'm very excited to do so. I do want to remind you again, our GTR giveaway for apparel. It's the 4th link in the description down below. If you're trying to get started in the stock market and you want the ability to watch me trade live every day, friendly reminder, I trade live every single morning at market open with my LPP team. You don't have to join, but if trading is lonely for you and you think that it would be of value for you to be able to watch me trade live, see my entries, you see my exits, you hear my thought process, you see my good days, you see my bad days. It's just a raw, live, private session for the LPP team. Right now, we're running our biggest sell, and you'll also earn 10,000 automatic entries for the GTR giveaway. That is going to be the 2nd link in the description down below. If you have any questions before signing up, that's the 1st or 3rd link in the description down below. I really do appreciate you guys' time. Hope that we're into thumbs up. Happy to keep you guys up to date, and hope and wish you guys an amazing 3-day Memorial Day weekend. Take care, team.